To create this area chart that has a gradients of dots that gradually get smaller, we just need to create 3 calculated fields. So I'll create a calculated field, and this first one will be for our normalized metric. And I'll be using price as our metric. So I'll type the sum of our price minus the window minimum of the sum of the price. And that's going to be in parentheses, and I'll divide that by the window max of the sum of the price. And then I'll subtract the window minimum of the sum of the price. This formula calculates how much each price compares to the lowest and highest prices within the dataset. And it transforms these prices into a scale of 0 to 1, where 0 is the lowest price in the group and 1 is the highest price in the group. And I'm going to copy this formula because it's going to have the same structure as our normalized date. So I'll create another calculated field called norm date, and I'll paste our norm metric formula in here. And everywhere where there's a sum, I'm going to change it to the minimum. And everywhere there's a price, I'm going to change it to our date field. So this calculated field is doing the same thing as our last one, except for this time we're comparing each date to the highest and lowest date within our dataset. And lastly, to ensure that our pattern doesn't go above the path that we set, I'm going to create another calculated field for the reversed metric. And this one will just be 1 minus our normalized metric. So it'll be like a normal area chart, but just flipped upside down. To create the structure, I'm going to pull our normalized date into the columns, and I'll pull our normalized metric into the rows, and our reverse metric into the rows. And then under the all marks, I'll move our date field. And I don't want this to be in years, so I'm going to right click and choose the day. And then I'll right click again to make it discrete. The reason I added this field in here is because we're going to have our formulas compute using that date. So I'll right click on our norm date field, go to compute using, and choose date. And I'll do the same process for norm metric and the reversed metric. So you can see how the bottom chart, which is our reverse metric, is just the flipped version of our normalized metric. To get this on the same axis, I'm going to right click on our reverse metric field and choose dual axis. So you can easily see here how the reverse one just flips it upside down. But we don't need the coloring, so I'm going to remove measure names from the all marks. And under the first mark, I'm going to change it from a shape to a line. And under the second mark, I'll change it to an area. For the color, I want to set it to white at 100%. And on our left axis, I'm going to right click and edit the axis. I'll give this a custom range between -0.05 and 1.05. Then I'll right click and move marks to the front. That way our line chart appears in front of our area. I'll also edit our right axis and give it that same custom range between -0.05 and 1.05. Then under the scale, I'm going to check off the reversed. So now our area chart that has a white background is everything above the line. This will contain our pattern to everything below the line. To add the pattern, I'll go to the Map tab at the top, choose Background Images, and choose our stock data source. And I'll add an image that I created in Canva that has this gradients of polka dots. And I'll put the image in the description. For the normalized date, I'm going to set it from 0 to 1. And for the Y field, I'm going to choose our normalized metric and also set it from 0 to 1. Then under options, I like to uncheck locking the aspect ratio. And now that we have our gradient pattern, you can see there's a little bit of white space between the line and the area chart. So I'll go to our first mark, and under color, I'm going to choose black. And to get rid of that space, I'll remove the halo effect. And these lines look pretty thick compared to our dots, so I'm going to go to the size slider and decrease the size of our lines. For formatting, I'm going to remove all 3 headers. And then I'll format the worksheet, and I'll remove the row divider and the column divider. And under the lines, I'll remove the 0 lines for the sheet, so we're left with just our area chart. On a dashboard, I'll add our gradient area chart worksheet. I'll hide the title and I'll resize it. Right now, we can see the overall trend, but without the axes showing dates and values, it's hard to tell exactly when things happened or how big the changes were. So to add the date axis, I'm going to create a new worksheet called Axis. And for this, I just need to pull our date field into the columns, and then I'll right-click and make it a day. Then I'll change it from automatic to a polygon. And we know what these dates represent, so I'm going to right-click, edit the axis, and I'll get rid of the title. Then on our dashboard, I'm going to add our Axis worksheet. I'll hide the title and then resize it so it's under our area chart. But because we're using normalized fields to create this area chart, the tooltip doesn't give us a good explanation of when things are happening and what the price is. So I'll go back to our area chart worksheet, and under the second mark, I'm going to go to the tooltip and remove everything in there for area. And for the line, we can see that day is already in there, so I'm going to add in our price field. Now we can edit the tooltip, and I'm going to remove everything in there that isn't the date field or the price field. And I'll just add a $sign in front of the price so it's clear what that value represents. And now when I hover over one of the points in our line, it's clear what the price is on that day.